Okay, this video has been very difficult to make. I've been following closely the response to Charlottesville, and sadly the situation is escalating and looks like it will get a lot worse before it gets any better, leading to what many people are speculating will be an all-out civil war in the United States. Now in this video, I want to talk about some of the important developments that happened after Charlottesville, reasons why I see the situation becoming worse, and an overall perspective to why I think this happened and how the situation will only deteriorate further. Now today is August 16th, 2017, a day where there was a memorial held for Heather Heyer, the 32-year-old innocent woman that was murdered protesting a white nationalist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. A very emotional day where Heather's own mother came out and said today that she wants her daughter's death not to silence her daughter, but to magnify her and to help channel the anger that's happening right now into righteous action. And there has been a very strong reaction to what just recently happened in Charlottesville. Many people are denouncing and attacking Donald Trump after his latest comments on the incident. People are even denouncing haircuts associated with the alt-right. Some people are being forced to flee their homes after being falsely identified as marching in Charlottesville. Confederate statues and monuments are being torn down all around the country, either at the hands of protesters or local governments who do it after midnight to avoid any further violence and problems in their city. There's even an incident where a man had 5 masked Antifa members outside of his home attack him and stab him because even though he strongly disavowed white supremacy, the attacker still labeled him a Nazi sympathizer for not denouncing it hard enough. And as we're seeing a very strong, committed reaction by the left, I think a lot of people are missing the main point here, and that is the fact that for months, the Antifa, which are considered the far left, and the alt-right, which are considered the far right, have been growing in numbers in opposition to each other directly because of their actions against each other. And I think people miss the fact that this is a cycle that has been engulfing each other and emboldening each other for a number of months now, pushing people to the extreme point right now where people are being murdered in the streets. And this extremism looks like it won't end at any time soon. Now, a lot of people have decided to direct their anger against Donald Trump because of the situation. Now, even though Donald Trump has condemned violence on both sides, calling out the alt-left and white supremacy and Nazis at the same time, but many people are seeing that as disingenuous because someone from the right actually killed someone from the left. It also doesn't help the situation that Donald Trump and other alt-right figures and alt-right figures talk in generalizations when it comes to major events that benefits their political side, but decide to talk on nuance when it's situations that don't. It doesn't help that Trump and some of the figures on the right that he personally retweets actually retweet fake news, who have been caught a number of times tweeting fake news stories in order to generate outrage and clicks for those people on the right to build up sometimes completely fabricated stories, to build up and sensationalize the threat that the West is gonna die any day now, highlighting issues from a very biased perspective, pushing a very clear ideology, scaring the crap out of people, manipulating truths to push their side, telling people how they were under direct threat, direct attack every single day, and now, not taking any responsibility for it, still tweeting out fake news, and from my perspective, sadly, caring more about their career, either as a politician or media pundit, than the actual well-being of the people of this country, and creating a huge disservice that divides people more, concentrates on our differences, never admits any faults, and progresses us towards the current abysmal situation that we're all involved in right now that affects all of us. But they're not the only ones doing it. It's also their opposition, and it's important to understand here, it's also what their opposition, the mainstream media, does as well. And they do it against them too, like Fox News recently labeling pro-Trump supporter Jack Posobiec as a quote ally of Richard Spencer, when in reality the two have very different political ideologies and have publicly fought before. CNN also said that quote white nationalists were planning 9 rallies nationwide just this weekend alone, and one of the rallies that they said was supposed to be a white nationalist rally was really a march on Google, which was partly organized by John Posobiec, but had nothing to do with white supremacy at all. And we have to ask ourselves, why is this weaponized disinformation being used against us? And there's a number of factors, but one being simply that fear sells, and has led to the current climate that we're all in right now. It is outrageous titles and headlines that spark fear and anger, that have omitted information, that have a clear bias, that are more exciting rather than accurate. Stories pushed both by the mainstream media and pro-alternative media that are more profitable. And if you've been watching any of the mainstream media, you could see their focus and direction on getting you angry. But the same is being done by the elements of the new media, mostly of which have predominantly been pro-Trump. And it's very simple. When you're more angry, you're more willing to share an article. That means more clicks will be generated, more ad revenue will be generated, and your brand as a media organization will rise up above anyone else who doesn't strike those primal emotional instincts in people. And it's mainly fear. And as Yoda said it best, it all starts with fear, which leads to anger. Then that anger and outrage leads to hate. And then that hate leads to suffering. And I think it's fair, we suffered enough already. And this groupthink, sensational, fear-mongering, clickbait news business needs to be put out of business and can with your incentive as a human being deciding not to click on those articles. And it starts with understanding situations, not generalizing points and events and using them as brownie points for your political establishment beliefs. The man involved in the recent congressional shooting, who was a Bernie Sanders supporter and strongly anti-Trump, does not speak for all Bernie Sanders supporters and anti-Trumpers. The madman who ran over Heather Heyer and dozens of other innocent bystanders does not speak for all Trump supporters. And while all of us are fighting each other, blaming each other, we are forgetting that it was the police that never did their job that day, that stood down, that pushed together the two groups of protesters, wasn't there blocking off the streets so protesters could go by, but ultimately left the situation and allowed it to unfold like it did in Charlottesville. We have to understand that both extremist ideologies involved in this divide and conquer game are flawed and are only growing because of each other, only directing more anger, more frustration, more victimization against each other, ultimately dividing and conquering us as the establishment, government, and corporatocracy look over at us and laugh. The US government has previously supported fascists before, and still, sadly to this day, not many people know about this, and there's barely an outcry because of it. And the issue of financing and supporting fascists should have been a major issue, especially when Barack Obama did it by supporting the Ukrainian neo-Nazis in the civil war that previously happened in Ukraine against the current government at that time. And hypocrites like John McCain, who previously even shared a stage and supported and backed neo-Nazis before, need to be called out, because these are the same politicians that will sell you down the river, who are using this political crisis in Charlottesville in order to get brownie points from you, to get your trust from you, but ultimately are hypocritical, two-faced backstabbers that don't mind supporting neo-Nazis and fascists, like they previously did before. And those people deserve more criticism than they're getting right now. Our government finances neo-Nazis. The US Congress even had to remove a ban on funding neo-Nazis from its year-ending spending bill in 2016 from pressure from the Pentagon. And overall, the US empire does not care who they support, as we're even seeing Donald Trump support Marxist YPG Kurdish fighters in Syria, because it doesn't matter who they support as long as it goes with their agenda. And that's why we have to ask ourselves, what is the agenda here with the latest events that just unfolded in Charlottesville? Because for me, it's kind of stupid that we're about to start a civil war in this country over statues from the last civil war. And we're being divided and pushed out against each other more than ever before. But ask yourselves this question. But ask yourself this very important question. Are these Confederate monuments, which this whole situation started about, are they responsible for the death of the middle class? Are they the ones poisoning your food and water supply? Are they the ones taxing you and using it to finance other Marxist and fascist regimes all around the world? And are these statues, or even your fellow American, the real problem here? Or is it the people who are pulling the strings? Let me know in the comment section below. I want to thank everyone from the bottom of my heart for watching and supporting real independent media. If it wasn't for your donations, if it wasn't for your cryptocurrencies, donations, we would not be here. Especially after YouTube just demonetized almost every single thing we do. You are more important than ever. Love you. Thank you again so much for watching.